Hello and welcome to our Spotlight series, where we feature interviews with some of the organisations and experts that are mentioned on our website. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Kim Witczak, who is a leading global drug safety advocate and speaker with over 25 years professional experience in advocacy, advertising and marketing communications. She's been a very vocal consumer representative on the FDA Advisory Committee evaluating new drugs coming to the market. First of all, Kim, welcome. It's lovely to see you. What was your personal story that brought you to this space?
22 years ago, on August 6, 2003, I got a phone call that literally changed the trajectory of my life. My husband was found dead, hanging. 5 weeks earlier, Woody was given an antidepressant for insomnia from his GP. He had just started his dream job with a startup company, having trouble sleeping. I was out of the country the first 3 weeks Woody was put on the drug. And I come home and I'll never forget something. That Wood walked through our back door completely drenched through his blue dress shirt, fell on the floor in a fetal position. He's like, "Kim, you gotta help me. I don't know what's happening to me. My head's outside my body." He's bawling. And I remember looking at him and I was like, I'd never seen that before, and calmed him down, called his doctor, and the doctor said, "You got to give it 4 to 6 weeks to kick in." So when I left again out of town, it was my busy time of year. I never thought twice about it. So as you can imagine, when I got that call from my dad, my entire world, everything that I knew had just blown up. And at the time when Woody had that head outside the body, we never second guessed the doctor or the drug, because it was given to him by, the safe and effective drug was given to him by his doctor, and it was FDA approved. And in our country, it was sold as on television, and you saw commercials of running everywhere. So never once at the time thought twice about it.
And so what was the antidepressant that he was given?
Woody was on Zoloft, sertraline. He was given a sample pack that automatically doubled the dose after week 1.
Wow.
Mhm.
So Kim, I'm so sorry I can't even imagine the devastation that this must have caused. And presumably Woody had no history of depression or anxiety, nothing like that?
No, we were married for almost 10 years. It's like, Woody didn't have a history of depression. We just booked our 10-year anniversary trip. I'm talking about having children. We're going to Hawaii with his parents in a couple weeks. But that night that he was found, obviously my life had just fallen apart. And my whole family now had been at my house. I'm in Detroit trying to get home. And the Minneapolis Hennepin County coroner called and asked if Woody was on any medication. And the only medication he was taking was Zoloft. And she said, "Oh, we're going to take it with us. It might have something to do with his death." So that happened that night. At the same time that intuitively, I'm like, there's no way Woody killed himself. And the other thing that was interesting, that same day, the front page of our newspaper had an article that said the UK finds link between antidepressants and suicide in teens. Literally, that all happened on that day. And that night, when I'm trying to figure out how to get back, my brother-in-law goes home and Googles Zoloft and suicide. We had no idea that the FDA held hearings in 1991 on the emergence of violence and suicide with just Prozac.
I took the 9mm automatic, sat down on the bed, and put the gun to my head, and I blew a 4-inch hole out the back of my arm.
After being on Prozac for 21 days, my wife shot and killed both of these 2 boys right here. She turned the gun to herself and shot herself twice.
I tried to commit suicide in front of my 5 children. I didn't know what I was doing. I don't remember exactly what happened.
And almost every member of that advisory committee took money from pharmaceutical companies making antidepressant products. And I remember after Woody's funeral, I was sitting in the basement and I'm praying a prayer. And for anybody who's ever had that kind of loss, of any sort. Like, heartache's real. I didn't even know that the heart could hold a pain like that. And I'm literally trying to rip and scratch my heart out. And I kept praying a prayer, God, take my pain and use it. It does me no good. Meanwhile, my brother-in-law is praying with, like, he's getting binders worth of stuff. He's ordering David Healy's book and start putting it together. And within weeks after Woody's death, my brother-in-law, with binders in hand, came over and said, I think I figured out what happened to Woody. When we started seeing this information, and I was like, why didn't I know this? How come I didn't know any of this? And it became like it was too late for our family. But if one family could be saved and just have the information, just information, right? Like, hey, just these are things you might want to look for. We knew nothing. We just blindly trusted the whole system.
Can you just explain? So you sued Pfizer, and were you successful or not?
The case was resolved, and part of it was I got binders worth of documents out from under seal that I use in my lobbying to get the black box warning. The lawsuit was a failure to warn wrongful death lawsuit. It was Witczak v. Pfizer. And it was really because there were no warnings and it was a wrongful death. And so that is what we held held Pfizer accountable for.
Successfully. So as a result of that, you then have become an advocate. Is that right? Is that as a result of what you discovered in the lawsuit? Is that right?
Yeah. I think the lawsuit was just part of one of the prongs. The other part of the prongs were I was out meeting with the FDA. I was very involved in the Energy and Commerce Subcommittee investigations, working with their staff. I also, wherever I could tell Woody's story, and Woody's story was the media liked his story because it was like a guy who had nothing, 5 weeks later, dead. He had no history. So it was a pretty clean story. So I kind of look at the battle for Woody as being DC focused, of course, the litigation, but also the media and telling about Woody's cautionary story and all the lessons that we learned. But without doubt, the litigation and getting these documents, because again, these documents, when you see them, you can't argue. Like, you can say Woody, or, because I think with antidepressants, what has happened a lot, they blame the victim, right? Oh, of course you're going to kill yourself. Oh, you were depressed. Oh, of course. Oh, you just went through this. That's you. Or you having side effects. Oh, that's you. It always gets blamed on the person and not the drug. Well, the beauty of some of these documents is you're like, help me understand why Pfizer, why did you help create a prosecutor manual? I'm just curious. I don't have to ask. I don't have to have the answers. I'm just asking the questions. And I think that is what I really tried to do with all of this, is give it to the people who could make difference. Like, I think right now we're looking at a world where there's so many people, the prescription rates are skyrocketing. We've got all kinds of problems globally, and especially after the pandemic and kids. But, my feeling is this has always been a campaign about educating people, the everyday layperson. And even in my capacity as sitting on the FDA Psychopharmacologic Drug Advisory Committee as consumer rep, representing the public, I represented the everyday person, the same committee that in 1991, Woody had no one representing his voice. Almost all those people took monies from pharmaceutical companies making antidepressants. And, now looking at the parents and people I've met over the years, and we have a big problem now. We can't, people can't get off these drugs. We've got the issues with PSSD. And so I think it's just continually being one of those that I have learned the power of our stories and connecting stories, because I think for a long time, people And this has been happening well before Woody died, right? But no one connects the dots. And I think that's the beauty now, is telling your story, telling my story, and what the work that you're doing. It helps to connect, and people realize, wait, I'm not alone, and this is bigger than I ever thought it was.
Tell me, Kim, about your work with the FDA and what you have managed to achieve.
It was quite an honor to get asked to actually sit on the FDA advisory board. Oftentimes, I saw how the drugs were coming on the market. I got to ask questions of not only the sponsor or the drug company, but the FDA. Then we got to vote on, do we think the benefits outweigh the risks? And I would say the bulk of my drugs that I voted on, I voted no, because I don't think safety is actually something that gets discussed enough. I don't think safety has been determined, because I think there's this attitude that once it goes out into the real world, that it will be picked up. If you think about it, 91 was the first hearing on just Prozac before it was on the market. They had an opportunity to put warnings back then. They didn't. And it took 13 years before the first warning got put on the drug. So I always, want to remind people that just because something has been approved by the FDA does not necessarily mean it's safe.
So, Kim, what would you like to see being done now?
Maybe we need to start shifting the way we talk about, mental health and diagnosis, and, really medicating being human. And this idea that if things are tough, that there's a pill for it, right? And maybe that there's some things that we have to start going. I mean, I know that's not a popular thing. It's not going to make money for businesses. I get that. But I think for the people, I think it's time that, we take kind of ground up, we kind of start pushing back on the authorities that are telling us, and stop giving away our authority over our bodies. And we have outsourced. I mean, I know, blindly trusted. I sometimes forget that I do that too, because when you're sick, you think, I want something to help me. But I think that is one thing, is that we need to start really kind of taking our power back and not blindly trusting.
Absolutely. And so, Kim, what are you up to at the moment? So you're no longer on the advisory committee for the FDA, is that right?
Yes, I just finished my third term, and that I would love to still be involved some way, but I have realized that real change is not going to happen within the system. I think real change is from the outside. So I like to work with, I've been invited to med schools. I have a whole presentation right now called How an Accidental Advocate Discovered America's Broken Drug Safety System. And it's the spider web. Because of my marketing background, I could just see how it's all connected. And so I'm trying to educate our future physicians, and then I'm also finally, after 22 years, I'm writing my own book. I'm writing the book that has been inside me, but I need to get it out of me, because if it can help one person, just the journey, inspire. I was a person that never thought one person's voice mattered. And I realized that our voice is probably our greatest power and strength. And we have to believe that if we speak and go out there and advocate, we can make a difference. So I don't care what it is that you want to go do and change for anybody. So I think that's one of the messages, because I know I never thought that my voice would matter. But I saw, when you're committed to something and you have truth on your side, that one person's voice can actually start the butterfly effect. And then more people keep, it becomes what starts all movements.
Wow. So, Kim, thank you so much. Tell me, how can people follow you?
Sure. Well, I do a lot of work on X, formerly Twitter, at Woody Matters. I also have a Substack, Acceptable Collateral Damage, and I'm on Instagram, as well as you can find me on kimwitczak.com. And I'll make sure that once the book comes out, I hope people buy it. And honestly, if you know how somebody could like make Woody's life keep going, is if they go and find their purpose, whatever it is, like whatever they want to go fix, if they go do it. Because that means that like he inspired me and I inspired somebody else. So that would be like the biggest gift.
That somebody could be inspired to tell their story as you're telling yours.
Yeah. And go, if there's something you want to see fixed, you go never think that your voice doesn't matter. That to me means that Woody's life did something to me, and that I gave it to somebody else to be inspired to go do.
Kim, I'm sure that this will really resonate with so many of our listeners, many of whom have lost loved ones, and many of whom are also suffering from untold pain from the withdrawal effects of these drugs.
Thank you for having me on, and thank you for all your work. I know you've had your own personal journey, and this is your gift you're giving back to the world.
Thank you very much indeed.